Hello and welcome. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to somebody that I am dying to interview because I have a vested interest in what she's going to explain. I've been using it and loving her. Well, I don't want to ruin it, but let me just tell you, I'm a big fan of what Roni is going to introduce to you today. I've been using it for many years. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Leah Vachani. I am a health and nutrition coach. I work especially with hormones, so women over 40. This is my jam. I love to work with you ladies. And my special guest today is Roni Vayre. And Roni is the head of marketing, product, and operations for Plan to Eat, the meal planning app created for planner personalities. She helps pen and paper planners discover the benefits of transitioning to digital meal planning, and her goal is to educate, inspire, and empower meal planners to simplify their meal planning process and, in turn, simplify their lives. Now, Roni, I have to say, I am the most disorganized person ever. So I have to say, like, you don't have to be the super organized person to enjoy Plan to Eat, but I want to hear your take on that. Welcome, Roni. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate you having me be here so we can talk all about meal planning. I'm excited about it.
Oh my gosh, we could talk forever. I have to, confession time though, Roni. Like for all the women listening, I know that there's different types of women out there. Some are super organized. They love either the pen to paper, they love the digital organization, maybe they love both. Then there's also people like me who may not be so organized. And what I love about, so here's my confession though. I hate meal planning. I hate it. Like I'm a nutritionist and I hate meal planning. And it really wasn't until um, actually when the pandemic hit, I was kind of forced to, go once a week to the grocery store. So really plan out. And that's when I truly started using Plan to Eat and realized like, wow, not only did I feel less stress about going to the grocery store, like I had a plan. I knew exactly what I was going to get, so I was more efficient with my time. It was less stress. I actually saved money also. And I started to have this love, like more love than hate relationship with meal planning. So Plan to Eat kind of like changed my life in a way. And I'm just here to just tell women that if you, maybe are not certain you can do meal planning, I'm here to tell you that you can. And Roni, let's just dive into it. Like what do you want to talk first about with I already mentioned the stress, but like maybe we should dive into that. Like how does meal planning help reduce the daily stress of deciding what to eat? Because that can be stressful in itself.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say that it is such an honor to have people say that our product changes their lives because we do actually hear that a lot. And I think it's not necessarily just Plan to Eat, it's really meal planning in general. And that's something that as a company, we are really passionate about is that it's really not about what you're using to meal plan. It's just that meal planning itself is so impactful. And for the reasons that you literally just stated, like it can save you a lot of money at the grocery store. It's actually amazing how when you go to the grocery store and you just have a list, like an organized list to shop from, and you're not just like buying stuff at random, the things that you're buying have a purpose. They go with the recipes that you're planning on eating that week. It can actually save you a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
But then you also waste less food because you're not, just buying at random and thinking maybe I'll use this in a recipe. I don't know. You actually like once again your food has a purpose, it's going to go into a recipe. You're also potentially able to plan recipes that correlate with each other, so you have chicken tacos and a chicken casserole, so none of that goes to waste. But then the thing that I love the most is this idea of reducing stress and kind of reducing the decision fatigue, because isn't it literally the worst when you come home from work and it's 5 o'clock and you're like, I have no idea what to eat for dinner. And maybe you have children and they're like, Mom, what's for dinner? And
The
it just
dreaded
can be,
question.
yes. And it can just be it's a daily cycle that we can get stuck in with that. But taking a little bit of time to plan ahead, whether it's for a week, a month, just a couple of days, it's really amazing how much that can help you reduce that stress and reduce that mental load. We don't realize, I don't think, how much time we actually spend thinking about food, looking through our cupboards, trying to decide what we're going to eat. And then also going to the grocery store, maybe every couple days, just simply because it's like, I don't know, we have nothing in the house. Let's, we got to go to the grocery store to get extra ingredients.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you ask the listeners right now, if they could raise their hand, everyone would be like, yeah, I've totally been there before. You're
Yeah.
speaking my language. Yeah, the dreaded question also, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
And opening up the fridge and like, oh, there's nothing in there, even though there are stuff, but you don't really know what to use it for. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that one thing I think that's I mean, you mentioned that you don't feel like you're a very organized person. Maybe you're not like a planner personality, but I kind of think of meal planning a lot like budgeting, where it's like not everybody really likes to budget or to follow a budget. Sometimes it's really hard to follow a budget, but it's really beneficial. And when you actually do it and go through the process of it, there are a lot of benefits that go along with it. So sometimes I think in order to be more of a successful quote unquote meal planner, you kind of have to realize that there are going to be benefits in the end, and just getting through it sometimes is the thing that's like, just stay consistent, do the thing, make it kind of like a budget where you're like, I know that I'm going to benefit when I get done with this thing, even though I'm dreading it right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that I kind of want to dive into the connection between, the meal planning and healthier eating habits, because I know most of the women watching or listening right now are concerned about their health. They want to make progress in the right direction, even if it's baby steps. And I know that meal planning can be part of that journey. And I also know, and maybe this can kick us off into this conversation, is sometimes we go into the grocery store and we see maybe some vegetables that we've never used before, and we are hesitant to buy them if we don't have a plan. We're like, I don't know how to use that, whatever it is on the green thing, maybe it's even kale or something, and you're like, what it is, but like, I don't really have a recipe for it. So I also know, jumping off, I'm speaking a lot right now because I have a lot of experience in this, but if we actually buy the food, if it's on our meal plan, we bring it home, it's part of our recipe meal plan, put it in our fridge, we're more likely to use it instead of letting it go to waste too. Am I correct, or am I way off base here?
No, I think you're totally right. Yeah, when you buy things and you know that you have a recipe to use them in, it's way easier to use them. And sometimes finding that recipe can be the challenging part, but there's also literally millions of recipes out on the internet nowadays, and recipes that can fit every style of eating and dietary need. I think one of the great things about meal planning is when it comes to healthier eating is the fact that you're actively choosing the food that you are eating and feeding your family. When you go out to eat, you might, be able to eat a salad or something with vegetables in it, but you don't necessarily know what kinds of like oils and fats that they're using with those. Is there a ton of sodium that they're using in those kinds of things? Same with takeout and fast food at an even greater level. And so when you're cooking at home, which I know not everybody is also a fan of cooking at home, but cooking at home really allows you to choose what you're putting into your body, and you're able to choose, which are the vegetables, which are the proteins, what are the starches and things that we're going to be eating, rather than kind of leaving it up to chance that the things that you're eating are actually going to, benefit you and be the thing that you're needing to fuel your body with. I think it's actually really important to be able to have that choice and kind of like autonomy in what you're feeding yourself and your family. And we actually did a customer survey a number of years ago, and one of the questions we asked was about healthier eating. And 75% of the people who answered the survey said that just with meal planning alone, they had healthier food choices because they're just putting that intentionality into what they're eating. That idea of planning ahead and just taking a little bit of time to think about it, I think automatically leads to planning maybe healthier recipes with more vegetables, higher quality proteins in them, just because you're taking time to sit down and think about it. You're not in that rush and, crazy time of like, let's just get some food on the table, whatever it is, it's not a big deal. So there's kind of multiple pieces in there, I think, that contribute to that healthier eating aspect.
Yeah, I love that you touched on the oils too. I mean, that's kind of a hot topic in the
Yeah.
news these days, is it's kind of the invisible things that you use when you're cooking that sometimes, sodium you don't see, oils you don't really see. Those things can make a huge impact on your health. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's It's a really good point. So, what are some obstacles to meal planning? Like, I know that we've made it sound really great. Like, it saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you stress. What are some
Yeah.
obstacles that someone might encounter in meal planning?
So I think like what you said for your own example is just feeling like you're not naturally a planner or you're a very disorganized person. I think that can be an obstacle for a lot of women thinking like this just isn't the thing for me, because that's not naturally my personality. But I like to view it as pretty much any other habit that where you can learn to get better at it. Maybe the first time you go on a mountain bike ride, you're like, wow, I'm not a good mountain biker. But that doesn't mean that you're like, this just isn't the thing for me. You realize like, oh, there's skills to learn and there's ways that I can get better at this. And I think meal planning is the same way. And the more you do it, the more intuitive it becomes and the easier it gets. And, creating your own system or method for the way that meal planning fits the best for you and your family, I think often is the thing that really helps someone who feels like they're not a planner is like, finding kind of like a template and using that every single time. So that way it's just really easy to, plug in your recipes and you don't have to think that much about it. But I also think another obstacle is that a lot of people have a vision of what meal planning looks like and
Mm.
thinking that maybe they're never going to get to that point. Um, but meal planning is just literally, it's just only thinking ahead and planning ahead for your meals. It doesn't have to be 3 meals a day. It doesn't have to be every single day of the week. I personally only meal plan dinners. And I only meal plan for maybe like 4 dinners a week because we eat leftovers. We eat leftovers for lunch. We kind of eat staples foods for breakfast. And so, like, my meal plan is incredibly simple, and that's what works for us. And it's really just, once again, it's that act of planning ahead. You're doing your future self a favor by not having to worry about it in the moment. And so I think it's definitely a misconception that a meal plan needs to look a certain way. But that's another, I think, mindset trap that we kind of get stuck in where it's like, it has to look like this. Otherwise, I'm not really being a meal planner. And I don't think that that's true at all.
Oh, thank you for saying that because a lot of people do have that, like, oh, I need to plan 7 days a week and 3 meals a day. No, you don't. I love
Yeah,
that you said you make it work for what you and your family need. And maybe that's just starting with planning 1 or 2 days a week and then you build. I mean,
right.
sometimes it's hard to just change everything all at once, too, unless you're forced to in the pandemic.
Right.
I was thrown into it and I'm grateful for that, but you don't have to go all in at first.
Yeah, there are definitely times where that happens too. We do have a lot of customers who come to us who, somebody in their family, became ill and they had to, move in with them, or maybe they had a new baby. It's like different life events, a pandemic, things can cause you to all of a sudden be like, well, now I have to become a meal planner. Sometimes those can be the best instances because there really is a need behind the action of meal planning. Whereas if you just are thinking, I need to be a more organized person, it can be really easy to not always stick with it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so you kind of touched on this with your comment about maybe there's a new baby or there's an illness or something, but some of us have, specific goals in our health journey. Like maybe it's weight loss or maybe it's eating more protein or adding more vegetables. So how can meal planning support that?
Yeah, I think this is I mean, similar to what I mentioned earlier, is just the idea of putting that intentionality behind the things that we're eating. So before I worked for Plan to Eat, I never really considered myself to be a meal planner. However, I was very active in the fitness community and I was, weighing a lot of my food, counting my macros, and not realizing that that in and of itself is a form of meal planning. It just looks a lot different from the way that I meal plan now. And so there's an element of meal planning that's, it allows you to have kind of that thought process ahead of time of thinking, okay, so I want to focus on eating more protein because that's really important as I age. And I know that I need to, start maximizing that nutrient in our recipes. And so you're able to find recipes where, protein is like the main source of the meal. And you're able to look at each day and say, am I getting enough protein in these meals? Am I really doing myself a service when I'm planning, or are we just planning a lot of things that are, really carb heavy and not realizing that there's not much protein in it? I think it's particularly when it comes to dietary changes like that, it's really easy to get to the end of the day and be like, I did not do a good job at like meeting that goal today, if you're not planning ahead for it. But when you're planning ahead, you're able to be like, look, I know that I don't have to like eat all this, perfectly to a T, like you would if you're, trying to become a bodybuilder or something. But putting that intentionality ahead of time into your meal plan really allows you, I think, to just be conscious of what you're cooking and what you're eating, whether it's a weight loss goal or just increasing a macronutrient or something.
Yeah. So as a follow-up question then for everyone that's maybe wondering like me, when you create your meal plan and let's say you're using a digital meal planner like Plan to Eat, can you see like if I've planned out my day or my week, can I see how much protein, for example, is in my day or my meal?
Yeah. So I know a lot of meal planners do this, and in Plan to Eat, we have this as well, where on your calendar, when you've created a meal plan, you'll get a daily total of, it's like a per serving total. So per serving of a recipe, how much protein, carbs, how much sugar, how much fat. So yeah, I think most meal planners have that kind of a feature in it. They at least have the feature where you can see macronutrient totals in an entire recipe. I don't know how many others like Planty allow you to see it actually on your meal planner to kind of like adjust accordingly day by day.
Well, that's a huge win because I know if you're doing paper and pen, you'd have to add it all up. And if you're
Yes.
like me and math is not your forte, I like that it's all done for you digitally. And, I have most of my clients, I have them focus on protein. So I think that's a really helpful tool. Um, okay, so we've talked about all the benefits of meal planning and some of the obstacles. How do we make it like more, you know, sustainable, flexible? Like, how do we keep it up? Because sometimes we jump into something, we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this new thing. And then a week later or 2 weeks later, we're like, oh, I fall off the wagon, lost motivation. How do we sustain it?
Yeah. So I feel like there's kind of two things here, because one of them is the idea of like you get started with a meal plan and then you might not even follow your meal plan once you make it. I know that a lot of people kind of have that problem, to which I would say there's maybe a bit of a trial and error process sometimes when you get started, of just realizing like how many recipes do you actually need to plan in your week if you're only planning a week ahead. um and focusing, my recommendation is usually to focus at first on recipes that you and your family already know and love. So like if you're a family who really likes enchiladas, make sure you have enchiladas in your meal plan. Plan things that are recipes that maybe you would already make, with your pen and paper, writing down all of the ingredients for that recipe, but just incorporating that into your meal planning system. So that way it doesn't feel like such a jump to be like, okay, and now all of a sudden we're making, prime rib or something that is like way outside of what you would normally make. So I think sticking to familiar recipes is really important for the habit to kind of have that sticking power. But I also think that um, for a lot of people, just scheduling your meal planning into your week is an important thing to keep you on track with meal planning. So maybe the day that you like to go grocery shopping is on Sunday. I would recommend doing your meal plan on Saturday and literally just put a reminder in your phone to make a meal plan that day. So that way you have it done and it's ready to go when you go grocery shopping the next day. I do this for a lot of things when I'm trying to, build a new habit into something. If I'm wanting to, journal every day, I'll put a reminder in my phone to be like, get out your journal, do that thing today, because I personally need that like physical reminder to do something. Otherwise, I get halfway through my day and be like, "Oh, I totally forgot about doing that this morning." So every person is a little different with the thing that might be their trigger, but I think having that sort of trigger of today's the day to do your meal plan so that way you're prepared, can be really important and really helps the habit stick.
Yeah, I love that. If it doesn't exist in my phone, by the way, it just doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
I love that, I love that reminder. And I think also you touched on like priorities, like if living a healthier life and improving your health is a priority, then you get to prioritize your time accordingly. And
Yeah.
so if you are sick of like coming to the last minute, 5 o'clock, 5:30, your kids are like, what to eat? And you're like, I don't know. And there's nothing in the fridge. If you're tired of that, then yeah, it might be a little bit of extra work in the beginning to set aside that time to prioritize the planning of the meals. But overall, like as you said, habits become making changes become habits, and then it becomes more efficient and it becomes easier and it becomes second, just second nature. And I
Yeah.
love that you touched on that.
Yeah. I think it's similar with when you're trying to build, I've heard this idea of like when you're trying to build a habit, start to identify with that habit more than thinking of it as like an external thing. So if you're somebody who maybe you're trying to get into running or exercising of some sort, instead of thinking that, other people are runners and I am just, a poser in the group, start to like view yourself as like, no, I'm a runner. Like I might not be the fastest, I might not be able to run for the longest, but like I'm a runner. I go out and I run. And I think it's can be similar for planning to be like, it doesn't have to be that the other people out there are the ones who are the planners. Any amount of planning that you do could make you a planner and you can identify as that. And I think that creating that identity and that mindset shift can also really help.
I love that. So you can everyone listening, you can just keep that mantra. I am a meal planner. I am
Yeah.
a meal planner. Well, I mean, we've touched on this before, but it doesn't have to be this scary thing. It's like dipping your toe in the water and then your foot is in and then your ankle and then your knees. And then before you know it, you're all in and you're like, it's fine. The water's not cold. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. I think that we as humans tend to fall into the all or nothing trap of if I
Yeah.
don't do this 100% or do it perfectly, then I'm not going to do it at all. But, a little bit of something is better than all of nothing.
Yeah. And we have a hard time, I think, as women, especially giving ourselves grace to screw up, to not be perfect. So embrace the imperfect. And we didn't really touch on this, but many many women watching, maybe moms, maybe have kids and families at home. Do you recommend getting your kids involved in this? Are there fun ways that maybe you can get your family on board that we didn't touch on?
Yeah. So we have a podcast at Plantee, and I have talked to a lot of people who are like mom experts on multiple different levels. So actually I have like a lot of fun things to share with this. The best thing I think is to get started is to ask your family like, what are the recipes that you want this week? And certainly you can take it with a grain of salt. If your kids want hot dogs every single night, maybe try to incorporate that every once in a while. But I actually think that if your family is used to eating kind of like a variety of meals, you'd be really surprised at what your kids come up with the things that they're interested in eating. You might actually learn a little bit about like some of their favorite foods that maybe you didn't realize were their favorite foods. Um, and then one of the things that I've learned that I find is really fascinating is actually getting your kids involved in the kitchen with you. So like once you get past the meal planning process itself and having your family maybe contribute to what recipes are being chosen, actually having your kids being involved with you in the kitchen is not only a really great learning experience, a great bonding experience, but the children are actually more likely to eat the food and enjoy the food if they helped prepare it. So if you're struggling with picky eaters, one of the things that you can do is just have your kids help you a little bit in the kitchen, and they'll be way more likely, way more excited to eat the food that is put on the table because they have a stake, they have a stake in that game there and they want to try
No
it
pun
and they want
intended.
everybody around the table to be like, wow, this is so delicious.
Yeah.
Um, it's actually really amazing psychology at work there, that I think a lot of parents can take advantage of. And not to say that getting your kids involved in the kitchen is easy all the time. It can be very messy. It can make dinner take a lot longer. So it might not be an every night kind of a thing, but there's definitely a lot of benefits with getting your kids involved.
Yeah, it's definitely can be messier and more work, but
Yeah.
also like if you are a mom or a dad, but someone that's raising a kid that like I have a high schooler. And I'm now realizing that I potentially only have a few years left with him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to teach him life skills, which
Yeah.
includes cooking basic things in the kitchen because otherwise he's going to live on fast food or something.
Right.
So it is, part of a life skill that we're adopting for ourselves and teaching our children. So I love that. Um, I want to dive, if we can spare a few minutes. Ronnie, I would like to dive into the actual app because I think there's so many amazing features that if you're going from like pen and paper to digital, you are going to be like, wow, this is amazing. Or maybe if you've just been kind of like, did like Google Docs meal planning or something, like there's so many benefits to Plan to Eat that I want you to list some of them that I could probably go on and on, but they are wow factors that have made my life so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that a lot of people, if you already have a meal planning process, transferring it into something like Plan to Eat is going to be really simple because the Plan to Eat was created originally from the needs of one family. It was a mom and her husband, and they had a growing family. And she started meal planning and was just basically like, there has to be an easier way to do this because this takes so much time and effort to meal plan every week. And luckily, her husband was a software developer and he decided to create
Nice.
a website for her. And then when he saw that it was so beneficial for her, they decided that, they should start to market it to other people and see if there was a need for it for other people as well. And obviously there is. So it's really kind of, we like to consider it kind of like a pen and paper planning in a digital application because we have a recipe book where you can put in all of your own recipes. We don't actually provide any recipes in the program, which might sound scary at first, but it's actually the best thing because it means that you get to choose the recipes that are in your account. You don't have recipes that you're unfamiliar with, that you have no idea if your kids are going to like, that are a type of cuisine that you are completely unfamiliar with, or cooking styles that you're completely unfamiliar with. We have lots of tools that make it really easy to input recipes into your account. So whether you have cookbook recipes or just a million recipes on Pinterest that you want to be able to save, it's really easy to get them into your account. And once again, like, we just think that there's a lot of autonomy in being able to choose your own recipes and create your own meal plan from it rather than being given those things. And so then the second part is that we have a digital meal planner, which is actually a calendar where you can put in all of your recipes for specific dates and times. It works really great if you have a busy schedule that you need to be able to plan around specifically. So you need, a crock pot meal one night because you know that you're going to be at work all day and not have time to cook that night, or there's soccer practice and you need to eat leftovers, whatever the things are that are going on in your life. And then the program creates a shopping list for you. So when you make a meal plan, you can then just have a shopping list made for you that you can take to the grocery store and buy everything in the exact quantities that you need. So that helps you with that, reducing food waste so that you're not overbuying stuff, but it also prevents you from making multiple trips to the grocery store because you already have all the items that you need for your recipes for the week. So hopefully you only have to make one grocery trip a week.
I want to reemphasize, ladies, it is so simple. I love that I put only the recipes I like or my family likes in there. There's not fluff in there. There's not
Yeah.
things like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And you just like literally can drag and drop, create your meal plan for the week, and then hit shopping list, and it literally populates in the categories too, by the way. This is like huge for me because I
Yeah.
have some ADD in the grocery store sometimes. It's like produce and meat and dairy. It saves so much time. I cannot even thank you enough.
Yeah.
And
The grocery categories for me is like a game changer too.
it's
It's awesome.
huge, huge. And I like also that like I can share recipes with my sister, or like meal plans. If I've created a meal plan, I can share it with her because we're kind of both foodies in a way, but she likes to spend more time in the kitchen. I don't. Anyways, we don't need to digress, but like we will share meal plans with each other that really work. So I like that aspect too.
Yeah. And we encourage households, families to share one account. So that way, maybe you are trying to get your kids into cooking more. And so maybe one night a week, your teenagers are in charge of making dinner. You can share your account with them so that they can view the recipe and cook from it. And, you've already gone shopping. So you have all the ingredients that they're able to just pull out and make a recipe from. Or you can share it with your spouse and they can go to the grocery store on their way home from work if you're not able to. So
Ladies,
you
did you hear
definitely,
that? You can share the shopping list with your partner.
yeah. Yes,
I love
exactly.
that. I love that. I mean, I don't, I think really the best way for women to kind of jump in, figure out what's going on. And I don't mean, by the way, to sound like it's only women. It's just that I know that everyone listening here coming to this
Right.
summit is probably all women. Men are welcome to meal plan too, ladies, okay? But I invite you to check out Ronnie's Free Gift because it will, once you get into the program, the app, if you were looking for something to try, the best way to try it is to experience it. And so, Ronnie, maybe you can touch on how they can do that.
Yeah. So we're offering a 30-day free trial for the program. So you can just download the app on either iOS or Android. We also have a website, so you can either sign up online or you can download the app and sign up for an account there. And like I said, you're going to start your account and there's not going to be any recipes in there, but we have a really easy little tutorial to follow that shows you exactly how you can clip, we call it clipping recipes from the internet. And then you can just, go around. Maybe you love Half Bake Harvest or some online blog like that and go find their recipes and add them to your account and then start creating meal plans and shop from your shopping list that's on your phone, which I forgot to mention. Your shopping list is on your phone so that you never leave it at home, because how many times have we left our
Oh
shopping
my
list on the
God.
counter?
I'm always texting my husband, I forgot the grocery list. Can you take
Yeah.
before I had this, I was always like, can you take a snapshot of it and send it to me? Now I don't need to do that. It's so
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. So the link that will bring you to your free trial is going to be in the email that brought you to this talk. So it's super easy. Just go ahead, click the link, try it out. If you have questions, I'm sure you can reach out to me or to Ronnie, or
Yeah.
there's a whole support team for Plan to Eat. And, as a nutritionist, I am really excited to support women on their journey of meal planning for a healthier body, a healthier mind, less stress, saving time so you can be doing other things that you love. So I'm a big fan of this, as you guys can tell for the last half hour. I can't say enough good things about it. But Ronnie, do you have any last words for our audience?
I just want to mention too that we don't require any payment information when you start your trial for Plenty. So completely risk-free to start an account and just give it a try, whether you think you're a planner or not. Just play around with it. So we have a lot of people who literally just use the app to store all of their favorite recipes because it's easier to find them all when they're in one place rather than bookmarked on the internet and on Pinterest and in your cookbooks. There's an element of kind of like minimalism there where you can kind of declutter a little bit as well. So, yeah, thanks for having me. This has been great.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I don't bring on just anybody, only people that talk about things I love and that will help, women improve their health. So I'm really glad you could join us, Ronnie, and happy meal planning, everyone.
Happy meal planning. Yep.